Hey everybody, it is your boy N607 here, and welcome to another discussion video. So, I made a Three Hopes review a couple of weeks ago, and one thing I didn't really talk much about was the story, because, well, Three Hopes is another one of those route-splitting games. There's 3 different routes, 3 different stories. I played the Scarlet Blaze route, and I mentioned in that review that I was underwhelmed by it, and that I would make a full-on video talking about it. So, this is that video. So keep in mind, this is purely my opinion. It's just my opinion. Don't get too worked up over it. But anyways, let's go straight into it. So I personally think, at least for the Scarlet Blaze route, that Three Hopes story is very underwhelming. Now, to be fair, maybe Golden Wildfire and Azure Gleam are better. Maybe. I haven't played those yet. We'll see if I get to those. Or just spoil myself on the cutscenes. I don't know, we'll see. But anyways, Scarlet Blaze's story is honestly kind of underwhelming and underwhelmed my expectations. And there's a couple of reasons for this. Number one is the Shez and Violet conflict. And this is the main thing that kind of disappointed me a lot. But before we get into that, let's talk about how the actual war plays out, and that's kind of the first issue. You see, in the pre-release for this game, one thing Nintendo really highlighted in the marketing was this whole rivalry between Shez and Violet. So much so that it's literally on the box art of the game and the Switch icon on the home screen. So clearly that's got to be very important, right? Well, not necessarily. The story isn't necessarily about this rivalry. It's about the war that's going on between the Empire and all of Fodenland, with this rivalry kind of thrown in there. And that's the first issue, is that the rivalry feels kind of forced, because, I don't know, part of me feels like it's mentioned in the game that, because you keep in mind, Shez was a mercenary, and he had some mercenary friends, and then all of his mercenary friends were then killed by Byleth, and that makes sense. I mean, yeah, you'd have a bit of a grudge. I mean, with the person that flat out killed your friends. But even then, it's also mentioned in the game that, as a mercenary, you're really, people just kind of come and go. So I don't really know why Shez has such a big conflict with Violet. It's just kind of, eh. And then there's also this stuff where Shez is kind of like, well, maybe we should potentially, recruit Violet. Maybe, he or she, I'll just refer to Violet as a she, because that's what I used, as a potential ally. It's just really weird. Do you have a grudge with Byleth or not? And you do get to make your own choice on that, but still, it's kind of just strange. It just feels kind of weird. They wanted to make Byleth evil, but they didn't make him evil. I don't know. But going back to what I got completely sidetracked from, the actual war story. And the war story is okay. It's not really that interesting, to be honest. It's pretty similar to that of what it was like in Three Houses, but with a couple of changes here and there. One big change that I feel noting is the fact that Claude and Edelgard actually team up to overthrow the kingdom, which seems like a cool thing. That didn't happen in Three Houses, but it doesn't really feel like it. Yeah, Edelgard and Claude are now working together, but Claude and Hilda only help you for one battle. You can't even talk to them in camp. You can't even use them as actual units. It's really sad. They're just green units in one battle in the entire route, and it's late into the game as well. So it's what was the point of that? I don't get it. I don't know, but I will say one thing I do like about the actual war story is that they actually gave Ferdinand a lot more screen time. And I think they did this with some of the other routes where they'll give one student character a lot more story. But I really like how they handled Ferdinand and his whole conflict with his father and whatnot. Is really good, especially considering Billy Kametz, Ferdinand's voice actor, ended up passing right before the game came out, which was sad. Rest in peace. You were a great voice actor, and Ferdinand was actually quite good in this game. But aside from Ferdinand and Edelgard and whatnot, all the other Black Eagles are absolute catchphrases. This is similar in Three Houses, where a lot of characters would say the same thing, but Jesus Christ, how many times in story cutscenes does Bernadetta just go, oh, I wish I could just stay in my room, or I want to just crawl under a rock and hide? Listen, I like Bernadetta a lot too, but good lord, can you get some more character? there's all that stuff going on with her father too, but it's like really not talked about very much. I don't know. I feel like they could have done a lot more, especially considering you see a lot of dad figures in the Empire for the first time in this game. So it would have been kind of nice to, actually have some more story about that. But whatever. The war story itself is okay, but this is Shez and Byleth rivalry that makes me feel like they could have done a lot better. And this kind of brings me into one of my biggest things, is that you can choose whether to spare Byleth or kill her. And then also Jill as well, but Jill, we're not talking about it. Now, I did spare Byleth because I knew about it ahead of time. It was one of the big spoilers I did know about, which honestly was quite good because I knew why they did this, because some people did want to play as Byleth, and I think they should have done that. But sparing Byleth just feels so strange to me. I don't know. It's like Shez has this beef with Byleth. I don't really know how Byleth feels on the whole thing, but Shez has this beef for so long, but then just throws it aside. I understand it's a choice, but it's like still, I don't know. It just feels sort of off compared to the rest of the story. And even Arvel's just kind of like, you should probably kill him. And I mean, yeah, we all know the whole secret with Arvel, but still, it just feels kind of strange. But let's say you do kill Byleth, or try to kill Byleth. Well, honestly, even despite kind of being considered a bad ending, it's not necessarily like a bad ending, but it's not, the game doesn't really treat it like it's the right decision. I don't know, I honestly feel like killing Byleth is honestly the best writing wise. I feel like it actually gives you some consequence. It really kind of shows you, like, the fact that maybe killing Byleth wasn't necessarily the best idea ever. It actually gives some consequence in the story, and it actually makes a little bit more sense given the whole rivalry. Just teaming them up now all of a sudden just kind of feels weird. But what if you do keep them around? Well, you can use them throughout a good amount of chapters, but then you eventually get pretty far into the route, and then you eventually finally get the cutscene where Shez gets overtaken by Arvel, and then Arvel starts using Shez pretty much in the same way how Sothis takes over Byleth to try and kill the other. And you actually get a pretty cool map where you actually have to play as the other Black Eagles, but you can't use Byleth or Shez, and you actually have to protect Byleth from Shez. And it's a really cool battle. It even has some stuff from Solon going on. It's cool. But then we get into some stuff where it gets into more rocky territory. Because essentially, somehow, I guess, Shez uses the whole spell of Zaharas. It was in the original game, but he had to do it in a very specific way, but it's there as well. And weirdly enough, you run into all three of the house leaders just kind of chilling, because Edelgard eventually just finds Dimitri and Claude just kind of play fighting. It's kind of weird because the battle right before this, you're literally in Aelel, and you're literally fighting Dimitri. Edelgard and Claude are on one side and they're trying to overthrow Dimitri, and they killed a lot of Dimitri's friends. Especially Ingrid, because they even made a whole cutscene about Ingrid's death. But here when you see Claude and Dimitri fighting, they're more so play fighting. It's like the war's not even happening. And then they all get sucked into Zaharas, and then you find out the whole truth of Arvel, which was admittedly kind of interesting. And then you get to possibly one of my favorite maps in the game, where you explore the Shadow Realm and you fight these phantoms, but you can only use Shez, Edelgard, Dimitri, and Claude, and it's really freaking cool. Being able to use all the house leaders for one epic finale is really awesome. It's honestly one of my favorite maps in the game, just because of how unique it is, and it also has a really cool final boss against the actual Arvel, Epimendes, or whatever the hell its name is. It's actually quite good. The problem is, this isn't the final boss. This isn't the finale. This is actually just another boss in the game. It's just an optional one. Because once you actually finally do kill the actual Arvel or Epimendes or whatever the hell it is, you eventually leave the Zaharas realm or whatever it is. And then when you return, all of you and all the house leaders are just standing, and then they kind of just leave. It's like they completely forgot that the war is even going on. I understand they have respect for each other, but still. It just feels kind of strange because, while this map is really cool, it doesn't really fit in with the rest of the game at all. The entire point was for them to always be against each other, not work together. It would have made more sense if there wasn't another battle after this. If this was after the war, That would be fine. In fact, honestly, I think that if they placed this after the Rhea boss fight, which we'll get into in a second, I think it would have worked way better. But then after this battle, everyone just leaves, and then the game just continues as if none of that ever happened. And that kind of just felt a little strange to me. I feel like they really should have kept that in there, even if just a little bit. Because the final battle against Rhea has absolutely nothing to do with this whole Byleth conflict. And I understand that they would have to like rewrite it because they'd have to write two different scenes, like one if you kill Byleth and one if you spare Byleth. But even so, though, I kind of wish they did a little bit more. I don't know. That's just how I feel at the very least. They should have done it like that. And the Rhea boss fight's kind of just whatever. And then you eventually see Talus, and he's trying to also kill Rhea, and then they end up killing each other, supposedly, and then fall under a bridge, and then short monologue from Edelgard about the war ending, and then a letter you get, because you get like this one item in the game that you can use in like the last chapter. You can give to like one of your allies, and then they write you a letter, and then credits time. No epilogue at all, which I understand Three Houses didn't have an epilogue as well, but Jesus Christ, they should have had an epilogue. Why can't we get one last hurrah from everyone and then have the credits roll? I don't know, it just feels so weird. It's really jarring, and I understand Three Houses did it, but like, why did this game do it as well? But that pretty much takes us to the end of the story then. And honestly, when I finished the game, I just kind of felt like, well, it's over, I guess. I mean, yeah, there's still two other routes to play through. I still have to go through those. But even so, though, at least with the Scarlet Blaze route, I feel like the story was just underwhelming. Not necessarily bad by any means, but just boring. I feel like they had all these opportunities. Like, they wanted to go in certain places. Like, oh, they wanted to make Byleth an antagonist. Oh, they wanted all the house leaders to work together. But it just doesn't fit in at all with the actual story. There's a war going on. Why are all the house leaders working together all of a sudden? I understand that they kind of need to get out, but it's like, just why? It doesn't make sense to me. I don't know, but hey, that's where you guys come in. Let me know if you agree or disagree with it. And if you do disagree with me, let me know why that is, because I wanted to and honestly, it was the one thing that really disappointed me about 3 Hopes, because other than that, 3 Hopes was a pretty solid game, honestly, let's be honest. Really, really good stuff. But the story, it didn't necessarily quite get there. And also, this is just a smaller thing, but the supports in the game aren't really the most interesting in my opinion. They're good, but I don't know, I prefer Three Houses supports more in general. Also, and this is a very small thing, but just to kind of bring this up regarding Monica, who's the new Black Eagle, which you knew about in Three Houses, but was killed and replaced with Chronia. You can actually use Monica now, which is really cool, but her just being another character that just likes Lady Edelgard and that's it, is really depressing. Like, seriously, you had all this potential, and then she's just another character that likes another one. Three Houses had enough characters that personalities were literally just liking another character. Catherine, Cyril, Leonie. Come on, do something more original. But anyways, I'm done with that. So thanks for watching the video, and I will see you guys next time. Peace out and take care.